Welcome, everyone, to Beyond the Brandywine,
where we wander, wonder, and occasionally get lost in Middle-earth. I'm Angela.
And I'm Kelsey. Beyond the Brandywine is a cozy, curious, and occasionally chaotic journey through the stories of Middle-earth.
Join us as we laugh over the odd bits of lore and follow tangents like hobbits chasing second breakfast. We're here to explore the places where the map fades and the questions get weird.
So for this episode, since we're so close to Halloween, and in honor of the month of October, I thought today we might let the questions get a little spooky. Ooh. I hope you don't get scared easily, because I do. I'm, team generally don't like spooky things.
I do love the horror stuff.
It's for you then. It's for you and your fans. Today, we're turning off most of the lights, maybe lighting a candle or two, and diving into the deepest, darkest, most nightmare-inducing places in all of Middle-earth.
Yeah, we normally talk about the cozy aspects of Middle-earth so far. The Shire, Rivendell, cozy hobbit holes, second breakfast. But Middle-earth actually has a ton of creepy places, some of which were shown in The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but some that were from First Age and beyond.
There's actually a lot of really scary places that, unless you've read Tolkien's other works like The Silmarillion, he really was a master of atmospheric horror. And I mean, it's not surprising, right? The guy fought in World War I. He knew what real darkness looked like, and he knew how to put that on the page without really being too gratuitous about it. So today, join us on a tour of the places in Middle-earth where, frankly, you could not pay me enough to visit.
Yeah, we're talking cursed mountains, haunted swamps, spider lairs, ancient fortresses of evil, places where even the bravest heroes were like, do we really have to go this way?
Spoiler alert, they did. And we're going to talk about why these places are so terrifying, what they tell us about Middle-earth's history, and honestly, whether we'd survive 5 minutes in any of them.
I can say the answer for me is no.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a no for me as well. So grab your sword, say a prayer to the Valar, and whatever you do,
don't stray from the path.
So, Angela, for our first section, I was thinking we could talk about a group of places that I think you can call more traditional haunts, in the sense of haunted and spooky places.
Like kind of ghost,
Yeah, like
spirit,
dead people, ghosts, spirits. When you think of haunted places in our world, it kind of feels more similar to that than some of the places we're gonna look at later in the episode. But I thought maybe we could start with one of the first spooky places that the hobbits encounter.
Pretty much the first one I think we run into is a creepy place.
Yeah, it's like the first place if you're reading Lord of the Rings and the hobbits are going out on their adventure. It's the first truly, really scary encounter. Well, after almost being killed by Old Man Willow.
Yeah, but he's just an old guy.
He's just an old malevolent tree. Yeah, the first truly, shall we say, supernatural experience that the hobbits have, and that is the Barrow-downs.
Barrow-downs.
Yeah.
I did a lot of reading into this one because I really thought it was a legitimately creepy place, and I guess it is, but I didn't realize that for a long time it was just a normal burial ground.
Yeah. It didn't start out so haunted. I guess that's a good way. There were evil forces at bay that made it a lot creepier than it used to be.
What I remember is the Numerian... Oh, gosh.
The Numenorian cruise line?
Thank you. Yes. The Numenorians. Yeah, so the Numenorians, they used it as a burial ground for their kings and stuff. I don't think they were the first ones to use it.
I was actually going to say, before you can do the history lesson, do you want to talk about your first impressions when you read Lord of the Rings the first time and came to the Barrow-downs? What it was like for you? Because I, if you're like me, I read it and I was like, what on earth? And then I wanted to read everything in the appendices and the history and kind of learn how it came to be. Because you don't get that history in the text of the Lord of the Rings that much, right?
When I first read the Lord of the Rings and they go into the Barrow-wights, crypt, I really did think of it as creepier than I do after reading it again and knowing a little bit more of the history. And I'm not sure about why. It might just be like it was a little bit more unknown than it is to me now. But yeah, I was kind of like, what are these guys? Where do they take you? They're definitely described as they're spirits, but there's a level to them where, I didn't really know what they were going to do to the hobbits exactly before they were saved by good old Tom.
See, flash forward to Kelsey reading it in middle school. And I remember, so it's like that whole sequence where I think Tom Bombadil tells the hobbits, don't go near the Barrow-downs. Like classic horror movie setup, don't do the thing.
Don't do it.
And then they do the thing.
Don't go near the stones. And if you do, go on the west.
Yeah, they get lost. Maybe some malevolent forces are at play because of the ring. But anyway, they do exactly what he tells them not to do. And then Merry, Pippin, and Sam disappear. And like Frodo hears they're crying and doesn't know what's going on. And like, poof, right? Misty, it's spooky. Like think of dark mist rolling in over these really
he
haunted...
like can't see anything. And there's some kind of dark arch that goes before him that he somehow decides to go into.
True horror movie. Don't go into the door. He goes into the door. But Frodo, unlike the other three, so the other three are fully under the spell, right? Because I remember it always stuck in my mind. I think John Howe, one of the famous Lord of the Rings illustrators, has a really famous picture of it. It's like this very dimly, eerily lit stone corridor inside a stone cairn or burial mound. And Merry, Pippin, and Sam are laid out, and somehow they're wrapped in these white, almost like mourning shrouds, like they've already been buried, and they've got all this jewelry on them. And
it's almost like a ceremony or...
Yeah. But they're under some sort of a spell that has them knocked out cold. And it describes this giant sword that's laid across all of their necks. And you're like, I remember reading it as a kid and I was like, oh no. Yeah. They're going to die. And like Frodo has enough good sense that he's not fully under the spell.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that happens, that the other three are just, they're out.
I think it's because they got disappeared by the whites first. Okay. So like they had time to prepare them for whatever this evil spell is.
Yeah.
And then, but what really scared me as a kid is the scene where you sort of see this, it's described as almost like this eerie green light coming from around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And straight out of a horror film, this disembodied hand just starts coming on the floor and like
That's right.
crawling towards the hobbits. And it's clearly trying to make its way to the sword to like kill them.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you just have Frodo in abject horror sees this freaky undead hand crawling and scraping along the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the good sense at least to call out the song that Tom Bombadil came. And of course, Tom in his classic fashion shows up and it's like, hey, sings his way, breaks down the barrow, kills the whites.
It's over so fast.
He just sings the song and poof, good magic again. But yeah, I remember like that scene terrified me as a kid because I was like, what are these creepy haunted bears? What are they doing? What are the whites? But to your point, like, then I want to know everything about, why are they there? Why are they haunted? Why are they so spooky? So I took us on a bit of a tangent.
No,
like,
okay.
I love that scene with just the hand.
I forgot about the hands,
on the floor.
honestly. Yeah.
And they didn't really, obviously they don't show the Barrow Wights in the films, but they did use a line from the Barrow Wight poem.
It was Gollum, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to remember what it is.
Cold be hard and something. Hand and bone.
Cold be something under
stone. I have the quote here somewhere. I'm going to read it because I love it. Cold be hand and heart and bone. Cold be sleep under stone. Never more to wake on stony bed. Never till the sun fails and the moon is dead. So it's part of the incantation that the whites are saying sort of before they...
I mean, it's pretty much inferred that if Tom Bombadil didn't come, they weren't getting out of that.
We would have had 4 new adorably pint-sized whites haunting these barrows.
Yep. Like they were not getting out of that. That's part of what's scary about it for me is that they kind of lost control of their ability to get out of there. They were under a spell before they were even underneath the spell was happening to them when they were taking their nap. I think that's why they took a nap. They kind of knew not to, but
they did it anyway.
It's just so nice. Let's fall asleep. And then next thing you know, they're underneath, the Sparrow Wights.
Yeah. Guys, just listen to what Tommy Bombs has to tell you for the... I know you and I talked before this that we were going to go through things in like least spooky almost to most spooky in a sense. And I agree that rereading it as an adult, the sequence feels less scary to me than some of the other things I now know about in Tolkien's universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a middle schooler reading this scene, I was like, oh, this is really not good.
I think what makes it a little less scary for me is that if you are able to keep your wits, then you're probably not going to be really harmed by it.
Or follow simple directions and don't end up there. Just avoid the Barrow-downs.
Yeah, so it's like, it's creepy if you do find yourself in there. Unless you know Tom Bombadil's little song.
Little jig, yeah.
You might be joining them pretty quickly.
Yes.
But if you're able to keep your wits, it's not too dangerous.
Yeah, there's like a logical way out in a sense. Follow the rules.
Right.
Be mindful of all the superstitions. Don't fall asleep on top of the Barrow-down right before evening.
Yeah.
And maybe, maybe you won't be attacked by the Barrow-wights. Because it seems like plenty of people just learn to avoid
They just
this
avoid the
area.
area in general. Yeah. So, yeah, to go into the history a little bit more about it, I mean, it was just a burial ground for a long time. A pretty normal one. It was highly respected area. The Númenóreans were burying their kings there.
It was part of the northern kingdom of Arnor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like everybody knows Gondor in the south, but Arnor was the other Númenórean kingdom. And this was the Shire in this whole area was part of it, is my understanding.
Right.
Back in the second into the third age, I guess.
Yeah. I can't remember which age all this happened in, but yeah, I think beginning of the third.
I think there's a reference somewhere in the text that some of the burial mounds are there, like go way, way back.
Way back.
The first age, like old.
But then it's like, it was always respected. And then I think it was reused again for like the kings.
Yeah.
But it was still just a normal burial ground.
Yeah.
And so this is a part that I still need to research, and you could probably have a whole episode on, but a plague goes through that Morgoth causes. It kills a lot of people. And then Morgoth.
Is it Morgoth?
Sorry, no, Sauron.
Yeah,
right.
Sauron. Yeah.
Sauron does it. But the Witch King, he's the one that makes the Barrow-wights.
Yeah.
And so they're not actually spirits of those dead in the burial ground at all. They're separate spirits.
They're like evil necromantic spirits that he like uses these almost bodies as like host bodies, right? Would reanimate in a sense?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, so it's not the dead king's spirits that are doing this. It's other evil spirits that kind of take them over, and that's what's really doing it.
Yeah.
But what I didn't know is that these wights, they kind of like, quote, settled down, and so they were pretty much dormant.
Oh.
And so it was Sauron and the Witch King again. The Witch King, as he's looking for Frodo and kind of narrowing in on the Shire, he reanimates these Barrow-wights and says like, hey, keep an eye out.
Oh, they're like
the ring.
They're like part of the spooky sentinels looking out.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because I remember going back to the third age when we were talking in our last episode about places to live, and we're like, yeah, the Northern Kingdom doesn't exist anymore because of the Witch King of Angmar, right? Like, everybody knows him as the King of the Nazgul, the guy that stabs Frodo on Weathertop.
Of bad up there.
He did a lot. He wrecked the Northern Kingdom that was Elendil's kingdom and caused it to like fade into ruin and do all these things. And it's interesting for me because the Witch King is almost at this time, like there's arguments that Sauron is reconstituting himself in southern Mirkwood, and it is through the Witch, like Sauron is almost using power through the Witch King to do all of these things and direct him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not clear to me how much of it is like Sauron's borrowed power, or is it the Witch King? Because he was a sorcerer, a necromancer, whatever, this very powerful entity.
And he does the will of Sauron, but he does have at least some free agency to some degree. It's like
he seems pretty powerful and spooky on his own. Like he's reanimating dead spirits.
It's all in service to Sauron.
Yeah.
So it's furthering his aims, but it's all
saying he doesn't have his own dreams and ambitions one day of
I don't.
He can't because he's got a ring. I think he's pretty much
he's set in life.
His path is set for him at this point in time. But yes, he's a very powerful sorcerer. So I did not realize that. I just assumed that it was always a spooky haunted place, and Frodo and them wander there, and it was almost like the whites were being opportunistic. But you're saying there was almost
based on my research, because it definitely doesn't say it in the movies. No, they skip this part. It doesn't say it in the books, but it's got to be
interesting. Yeah, I'd want to know what the actual citations are, because I think that's even more terrifying. Because like we know Sauron activates everything possible to try to hunt down the ring, especially once he gets the information from Gollum. So it would make sense that like if you've got like whites you can tap into on the edges of the Shire, and like you want everybody's
like
attention, to get a sense of it. I almost wonder if that's why Old Man Willow was a little overactive, but he's in Tom Bombadil's realm, so interesting. But it's funny, they do their thing. Tom Bombadil rescues them, and they're good. Like it's just kind of like never to be spoken of again.
Oh,
except
what, the swords?
Yes, that are very important later on.
Yeah, which
well, tell me about it, because it's one of my favorite little plot twists in the book that I don't think a lot of people pick up on,
and they definitely don't say it in the movies. Yeah, so Tom Bombadil rescues them.
Mm-hmm.
And they go through all the treasure, basically. And they each get a sword. And these swords are made by the Númenóreans. And they were specifically made to hurt the Nazgul, and especially the Witch King. I think because of all this damage that he's been doing up there, they were pretty much like, we need to be able to fight this guy.
Yeah.
they never were able to use those swords, I don't think. But especially the sword Merry picks up. He carries throughout the whole journey. And the Pelennor Field?
Yep, the Battle of Pelennor Fields.
Yep.
With, wait for it, the Witch King of Angmar.
Yep. So yeah, the stab that Merry does to the Witch King happens to be with a sword that was made to kill the Witch King.
Yeah, it's made with one of the few swords in existence that actually could have penetrated the magic of the Witch King. Because if he'd just come with one of his regular swords from like the Rohirrim, it would have bounced off of him. So it's
basically like the sword itself was really the key, because I forget the exact quote, but it was something like even a more powerful swordsman with a lesser sword would not have been able to do the damage that Merry did with that sword.
I like to think that Tommy Bombs knew this, and that's why he almost like Gandalf, like he has enough of a sense of what's coming that he
you want the
kind of plant the seed of, here you go. I love it because there's a whole sequence, which is probably one of my favorite in the whole books, when Éowyn and Merry take down the Witch King. But it's made possible thanks to the sword from the Barrow-wight that Tom gave them. So thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
Save Middle Earth.
Without even
one tiny...
Possibly without trying. I don't know.
Short sword or a dagger, too. It's not really like a full sword, from what I remember.
No, I think it is, because the hobbits couldn't carry something that big.
Yeah. Which is so cool. So the Barrow-wights. I mean, so they're creepy. Yeah, they're creepy. We definitely have... They showed them in Rings of Power briefly, for better or for worse.
But they the elves at least fought them pretty normally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember it, but I think
it's
sword fought them and then killed them. And
one of the guys get dragged into one of the barrows, right? You kind of see, they seem much more...
But swords were able to kill them.
Yeah, they seem much more proactive in the TV show. They're not just like hanging out in their barrows and waiting for somebody to stumble in. They're like, oh, you're in our route. We're gonna attack you as soon as you step in here.
Yeah.
And you're right, like the whole... maybe it's because they're elven swords that they do more than your average human sword. Maybe there's an element of that. But it was cool to see them in the TV show. And I like kind of atmosphere and the horror.
Yeah.
But I would have rather have had the scene in Lord of the Rings when the hobbits escape. Because I think it really sets the hobbits up for not necessarily getting their stuff together, but being more aware of how dangerous the journey is going to be. Because they go from we're flying by the hair of our chinny chin chin in front of the Nazgul.
Right.
Make it to the Old Forest. That goes bad. Get out of Tom Bombadil's house. Goes bad again. Tom saves them again.
Right.
And then they finally get to Bree and they're like, maybe we should be more careful about how we handle this the rest of the...
Yeah, it was a good lesson for them. Yeah. It was not too much all at once. Yeah. So it's a good start for a creepy journey through Middle Earth.
It's a good first creepy haunted place. We're going to go on to our next part 2 in our almost normally more traditional haunted. And this one I think folks will be more familiar with.
Yeah, this one was actually seen in the movies. So most people should remember this one.
This is actually my favorite for the longest time. When we started thinking about haunted places and scary places in Middle Earth, I think the one that left the most impression on me as a kid reading the books was our next one, which is the Dead Marshes.
The Dead Marshes.
And it's funny because I recently reread the books and I didn't realize how short that section was in the book. I had in my head that it was a whole chapter and all this stuff, and I reread it and I was like, wait, that's it?
Yeah. Quick tangent, because I had the same thought the last time I read the books. Almost everything that they run into, it's like a whole battle will happen in a single paragraph. It's like, that's it? Yeah.
The power of concise writing. Right?
Yeah, seriously. Anyway.
Well, no, it's funny. And again, things that leave impressions on you when you're younger. I remember vividly the descriptions of the dead things and the water
lights
and the and all of that, but it really is a much shorter portion of the chapter than I remembered, and that made me kind of sad. And I really honestly, they expanded it a bit in the films, and that's one of the places I was really excited to see them take and expand the story a little bit to give you more of the atmosphere and the scariness, because I think
it is creepy.
It's really creepy, and I think this one hit home the most for me when I first read the books, because this one is the most, other than a haunted graveyard, is the most like something you could run into in the real world. And I think, and again, I know Tolkien doesn't like allegory, but having seen documentaries on World War I and No Man's Land and the wet, mucky, nasty, battlefields with corpses and people in them in the water, and you could be stumbling around and step on a hand or step on a foot or fall into a pit full of people that had been killed in a shell.
It's hard to imagine that he didn't base it on something.
It feels
even
like
though he
says he based on it. Yeah. It really feels the closest to something that he would have experienced in real life. And I think that's why the horror for it is so vivid and real. And why I was so happy with what they did in the film, because you really get a sense of the sort of, yes, it was where the last alliance was fought on the Great Plains in front of Mordor, and I don't know, thousands, hundreds of thousands, like a lot of elves and men and dwarves and orcs and all these things died there. And it's interesting for me because in reading the history of it, because you get this little bit in the books, right? Like with Frodo and Sam being led by Gollum, and he says, don't follow the lights, and they see dead faces in the marshes, and it's really spooky, but you kind of, that's it. And then, I don't know if it's Gollum or somebody else talks about, it used to just be a giant battlefield with people buried.
Right.
Good and bad. Like, it wasn't this super haunted swampland.
Okay.
And it was only later on that the swamp sort of expanded and took over where the graves were and made it a much more malevolent, haunted place almost. And it's not clear to me how much of like spooky, almost reanimated corpses we see in the film is that magic that came from Mordor as the swamp expanded.
Right.
Or is it just, this was never going to be a good place? Because
in the movie, they do animate one of the, when Frodo falls in and they're kind of reaching for him.
Yeah.
I didn't really get that feel from the books.
No.
So I don't know how accurate to the lore that one is, but it's good for a movie.
I really liked it, the movie, because that felt how kind of my brain imagined it reading it as a kid. But it's like, it's really just a really terrifying haunted place because of the amount of deaths that happened there,
Yeah. After reading into it a little bit more, that's kind of the feel I get from it, is it's basically like a big haunted marsh.
Yeah.
But there is that element, though, of like the lights are real, or at least, everybody that walks in there can see them.
Yeah.
You can see the faces, and they're not skulls. Like the battle that happened there is a long time ago.
Yeah.
So they're faces that look...
They're either preserved or they're like they're like almost like magical.
So there's something magical going on there.
Well, and Gollum warns them, right? He says, don't follow the lights. I won't do the accent this time. But he says, or hobbits go down to join the dead ones and light little candles. And because Gollum has made it through the marshes before, I wonder if he's seen what happens. Not just himself, but like has seen like an orc or something fall into the water and see what happens, which is why he's so paranoid.
Yeah, I can remember two parts of the book, I think, where it's describing Gollum. Because at least when Frodo and Gollum and Sam are going through the marshes, Frodo does look into, he's like staring off into the marsh, the lights, like entranced. And then it says something about slime being on his hands, almost like he touched the water and maybe he was starting to go in, kind of like he did in the movie.
Oh.
So he might have been on the way to joining. It sounds like you're entranced.
Yeah, it's almost, there's some sort of a spell almost going on, and
you fall in and then maybe drown and join.
Yeah. Well, I found the quote. So it is Gollum that tells the hobbits that there was a great battle long ago. And he says, yes. So they told him when Smeagol was young, when I was young before the Precious came. So he remembers being told this as like a proto-hobbit on the river back in the day. Even they knew about it. And he says, tall men with long swords and terrible elves and orcs shrieking. They fought on the plain for days and months at the black gates, but the marshes have grown since then, swallowed up the graves, always creeping. So Gollum knows about the history of this sort of marsh expanding. And I wonder, again, is it
natural or
is it natural? Is it like because it's close to Mordor and Sauron, that like that's part of what's going on to sort of make this place even more haunted than it normally would be? It's interesting. And I actually want to go back to the World War I influence too. I'd forgotten. But Tolkien, in one of his letters that he wrote, letter 226, he directly attributes it to, he said, the Dead Marshes and the approaches to the Morannon, which are the Black Gates of Mordor, owe something to northern France after the Battle of the Somme.
Okay.
And Tolkien was in the first and or the second Battle of the Somme. He was in two of the worst fights in all of World War I.
Gotcha.
So, again, this one hits close to home because it feels like something he saw, which is sort of that, he doesn't describe it too much, but I mean, again, your imagination sort of almost fills in the blank on this one.
I think instead of Dead Marshes for me being super scary, it does give me more of like a mourning, sad type of feel, like knowing that it was a graveyard. Even with the creepiness of like, don't follow the lights and don't get sucked in yourself. This is another one for me where it's keep your wits about you, and it's not inherently dangerous.
Don't go in. Just walk around them for miles and miles like the orcs do, and you're fine.
Just avoid the area, yeah.
And Aragorn goes into them. It's said when he was hunting down Gollum for Gandalf in the events after Bilbo's birthday party, but before everything that happens later in Lord of the Rings, the 17 years we just kind of skip over. Aragorn goes into the Dead Marshes then too. Mm-hmm. So there are ways to safely navigate. I mean, it must have been a mind trip for him going onto the battlefield where so many of his ancestors died. I thought about that. I was like, that must have been really hard. But I hear you. Like, it's kind of like when you go to Gettysburg, right? Like, you feel the weight of the place, and it's very sad. And there's stories of ghosts and haunted stuff.
I guess on the list of places, I would cross through the Dead Marshes.
Good on you. I would go around for miles and miles and miss the orcs.
Obviously I'd prefer to go around, but at the same time, it wouldn't be like the worst thing for me to go.
But I'm avoiding it for the midges and the mosquitoes. Let's be real. Like, I'm not avoiding it for the dead things.
That's true. I would be
avoiding it for all the bugs that go with the. I will say one last thought on that. You're right. It balances the kind of scary horror aspect with respect for the dead and a place of great significance. But it is one of the few places where Gollum is really scared.
Okay.
And I will say that stood out for me in the books because Gollum's been through some stuff, right? He's 500 years old. He's been tortured by the Dark Lord. Like, he's seen it all at this point in time. And this guy's crafty. He's navigated orcs. He talks and makes a pact with Shelob. Like, this guy is not... And he's scared of the Dead Marshes. Of all the places he's been, of all the horrible places that Gollum has been through in the world, the Dead Marshes make him nervous, which always kind of stood out to me. Again, makes me wonder what he saw there.
Right. Oh, so that brings me back to what I think it is when Aragorn is leading Gollum back through the Dead Marshes after finding him.
After he captured him, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where it describes Gollum also covered in slime. So I think he did almost get captured, which is probably why he's like, I'm not...
Turned into a tiny little...
Yeah, he almost got sucked in himself, and so possibly that's why he's so scared of it.
Interesting. I mean, that would explain a lot if he fell in and almost like, much like he rescues Frodo, Aragorn almost rescues him.
Don't follow the lights. I told you.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, speaking of other creepy haunted places that Aragorn's been to, the next one on the list is the Pass of the Dead.
Yeah. And this one's also in the films, so...
Yes. Yeah. They put this one in the films. And this one is creepier to me than
Dead Marshes.
The Dead Marshes, yeah. Maybe it's because it's enclosed, so it's like in the mountain pass.
For me, it's because the Rohirrim are terrified of it. Even Éomer, who's one of the greatest warriors of our time, is like, don't go there, you'll die.
Okay, yeah. Maybe also because it's a tunnel and enclosed and nobody that goes into it ever comes out.
Yeah.
I guess the Dead Marshes don't have that. They're just an open field, and at least Aragorn has gone through there. I don't know how many other people.
The list is short as far as
it's short, but still,
it's navigable. Right? It's not like if you go into the Dead Marshes, you'll never come out alive. Right. Now, this place, the Paths of the Dead, super, super evil and haunted. Yeah. Like, we're ratcheting up the haunted level, I think. We kind of like the Barrow-downs, and then, the Dead Marshes. This place is the first place that, again, probably that when I read the books the first time, that's...
If I went through there, I'm not coming out.
No, I'm not
Isildur's there.
I won't even go to a basic haunted house and an amusement park. So I would be walking away from the gate where they read it's kept by the dead or whatever in the film. I'd be like, no, I'm good. Yeah. Going back.
I'll see you around the other side.
Yeah. It's funny how many of the places have connections to the Numenorians.
They've kind of been everywhere.
Yeah, they're older. Well, a lot of these places are way older than the Third Age. But this one is a whole group of people.
I don't know the history of this one as well, so maybe...
Yeah, I can
fill it in a little.
I'll tell you what I remember, and I can tell you what I have in my notes. The short version is, so there's the Dormerberg, which is the Haunted Mountain, and there's a famous place that the Rohirrim often gather called Dunharrow.
That's where they gather in the Lord of the Rings.
It's where they gather in the Lord of the Rings. It's the same in the books, right? They gather all the horses there before they go off on their final march to Gondor.
That's the one with the zigzag stair that kind of goes up.
Yeah. And it's an interesting place because it predates even the Rohirrim being in Rohan. And there's like standing stones. It's just definitely got that haunted middle of nowhere Scotland standing stone vibe, right? There's a little bit of that. But the Rohirrim are like, this place is evil. It is haunted. You don't go near it. Like the horses, and it tells you like the horses are nervous in the books and in the movies. Like they don't want to be there. And if the animals are freaking out, right?
You probably don't want to be.
And like I said, like the bravest warriors of Rohan, when Aragorn tells them he's going to take the paths of the dead, they're like, no, you're going to die. I'm never going to see you again. Why would you do that? Right? Like they're convinced that no one's coming back, even Aragorn from there. And Éowyn is distraught when she can't convince him not to go. And it's extra spooky. It's in the books, not the movies, but this haunted mountain, as the Rohirrim are gathering their troops to go save Gondor, after Aragorn has already gone into the Paths of the Dead, it is said that everybody who's sitting up at the top of Dunharrow sees a host of the dead go through Dunharrow into the mountain to meet Aragorn.
Oh, no way.
So this is before...
I think forget about that.
But in the books, basically... I mean, it's different in the books, right? Aragorn goes through the whole paths and then summons the dead after he kind of makes it out the other end. Right. In the movies, he summons them in the mountain.
So they can... Oh, man.
Yeah, so like,
no wonder they didn't think...
Yeah, so the Rohirrim are already scared about it, and they're like, they've written off Aragorn. They assume he's dead. They're like, no one's going to come out of there. And as they're gathering up in the mountain, a host of ghosts and evil whatever are seen passing through into the mountain, and they're like, oh, man, like...
Yeah, he's done. Yeah.
He's done. Yeah, I had forgotten that. And then on a recent reread, I was like, oh, but how did they become haunted? She said.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
History.
Well, you know this part is the Oathbreakers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I do remember is way back in the original fight with Sauron, they made an oath to Isildur.
Yeah.
That they were going to help in that fight against Sauron.
This is like the end of the Second Age, like before the giant cataclysmic battle that results at the Dead Marshes, right?
Yeah, so they ended up not going to fight and broke their oath. And in Tolkien's universe, that's a big no-go. And
word is important.
Yeah.
Promises matter.
Yeah, your promises really matter in Lord of the Rings. And so they were cursed. And so their people pretty much dwindled and only ghosts remained of that whole people.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It's not clear, like, good on Isildur. So he has this crazy, again, things that are not explained in Tolkien's lore, this Stone of Erech. It's Erech.
Erech. I actually don't know.
It's this giant, like 6 foot in diameter black orb that Isildur that he did bring as they fled the destruction of Numenor. And it's in the ground at the end of the Paths of the Dead, like when you come out of the mountain, it's like half buried in the ground. So it's just like this almost alien stone sitting there. And that's what I guess Isildur cursed them with, whatever power.
So I don't know much about this stone.
Nobody does.
Okay.
So it's one of those like giant question marks in Tolkien's lore. It's clearly very powerful.
Yeah.
But NFI, like Isildur, I want to know how it fit on the ship, right? If you're talking about a giant obsidian.
Where did it come from?
Stone, where did it come from?
Oh, I love that.
Does it have dark magic? Does it have like something? Who knows? But it's half buried in the ground, and it's this really powerful thing. I'd like to know if it was ever used at any other point in time, but we know 2 uses, which is Isildur cursing the men who betrayed him, turn into the army of the dead, and then Aragorn going to that stone to summon them again.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So there's some sort of other magic going. It's not it's just their word binding them. Like there's something about this stone that has like
extra level
extra curses. There's actually also, and I can't remember if this is, I think this is in the books. It's not mentioned in the movies. There is some hints that also the men in the mountain worshipped Morgoth. And part of this, like, they've been in these mountains a lot longer than the Rohirrim. I remember a bit where they talk about whatever they had going on in the mountain. There were, like, secret Morgoth temples in there.
Oh, no.
Which is also part of why they chose not to fight and part of the curse. But that's also, there's, like, this evil association with Morgoth.
I would love to learn more about that.
Yeah. Well, we know the Numenorians end up worshipping Morgoth before the island goes down, but so there were clearly pockets of people who ended up turning to the dark side, if you will, and worshipping Morgoth. So I really liked in the movie when they showed that underground fortress where Aragorn summons them, because to me, I was like, oh, is that their temple, their secret temple of Morgoth?
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
It's fun. They've really messed up. I mean, they made the wrong choice. Like, this isn't a lesson in maybe keep your promises so you don't get cursed for millennia before you're finally redeemed.
Yeah.
But this one's like the atmospheric horror that Tolkien uses to describe the Paths of the Dead.
Well, this is why I don't want to go in there. It's just once you go in, and this is where it's not clear to me whether the spirits of these people, do they kill you directly or just drive you insane? But either way, you are not coming out of there. They probably might make it more maze-like where you can't find your way back, or they just use...
You're saying hundreds of skulls don't fall out of the wall and knock me into the abyss like in the movie? No.
Did I run over them with my little elf feet?
Yeah. Just run over them. Those were foam in the movie. I love it. Anyway.
Yeah.
But like, it's You know why I said Gollum was scared in the Dead Marshes? Like Gimli, a dwarf whose like whole life is he prefers to be underground.
Oh yeah.
They get to the gates of the mountain.
An elf goes underground.
And a dwarf will not. Oh, I've never heard of the end of it. But no, he says in the books, I would not go this way even if all the hosts of Mordor stood before me. Gimli is like,
right. Yeah.
No way.
I can fight my way out of orcs. Can't fight your way out of
the dead.
Mountain. Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't help that, do you remember Legolas describing everything that no one else can see but him?
Not really. Do you remember?
It's really scary. This is one of the things that this really, really freaked me out in the books because they're going on in this pitch darkness, right? Mm-hmm. They know they're in a haunted place. They know that no one's ever come out of life. The Rohirrim telling the story of the one guy who went in and never came out. And they find his body, which proves the story.
Right.
Aragorn's got like a torch and no one else can see anything. And Gimli's freaking out. Like he is having a panic attack. He does not want to be there. Yeah. And Legolas is, oh yeah, no, I see the dead following us. Because he's an elf and I guess he can see the unseen realm. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh yeah,
they're behind us. Yeah.
He's like, the dead are following us. I see the shapes of men and horses, pale banners like shreds of cloud. And Gimli's like, what? And Legolas is like, yeah, the dead are following us right now. And Gimli's like, full on, could not get out of there fast enough. And it's funny because Legolas is so unbothered.
I know.
Because he's like, yeah, it's the ghost of men. Those don't scare me.
I don't remember if he says this in the books or just the movie when he goes in pretty much like, I don't fear death.
Yeah. Well, no, in the books, he basically said, I'm not bothered by the ghosts of men. Okay. Their spirits do not scare him at all. And maybe. So
apparently if you're an elf, you can get through the mountain?
Maybe that's
it's only for men.
That's the trick.
Yeah, and dwarves.
Maybe, yeah.
They don't really explain that, but all we know is Legolas is pretty unafraid going through there.
Yeah, and I think it's part of his elfy nature that he can see the unseen realm and he can see the spirits and he can see the ghosts and he's just kind of like, okay. And Gimli's like, can you please describing all the terrifying things around us that I can't see right now? Yeah, this is one of the few, I mean, they've been down there for 3,000 years? They've been cursed for 3,000 years.
They can't be happy about it.
No. And only the heir of Isildur can free them. So it's not like...
Yeah, I guess if I were them, the spirits, cursed forever, and anybody but the king or, the heir of Isildur coming through there would make me pretty pissed off.
Yeah, stop wasting my time. You can't free me from this. Now, granted, consequences of their own actions, but...
True.
Yeah, this one's like scary and tragic to me where...
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad. I don't feel that bad for them because they totally left Isildur hanging, but...
Right.
I feel like after being cursed for 3,000 years...
They did some penance for that.
They eventually make up for it. They get their spooky happy ending.
Definitely a creepy one for me. That's one I do not want to go into.
No,
I am actually an elf.
Maybe as an elf. Maybe.
But even still, it's not clear.
And a team Gimli on this.
If Legolas was not with Aragorn, I'm not totally convinced that he would have made it out of there.
You do wonder. Yeah, it's not just the three of them in the books, right? It's a whole troop of the Dunedain and Elrond's two sons. So he's actually got 3 elves with him to help. Although they don't really say anything. They're just kind of there. Maybe they don't
get a lot of knowledge about.
No. Thanks, elves. I'm sure they have more to share, but they choose not to. Gatekeeping. Well, actually, speaking of tunnels.
Oh, yeah. That leads us right into the next
down.
One, which kind of transitions from typical haunted into actual creature.
Yeah, creatures, malevolent presence. We were talking about like concentrated evil in a single location. We're straying from like, oh, a bunch of people died here, or there's a bunch of spirits, to there is a force here that is bad and possibly supernatural, and you
don't pass go. Don't go in there.
Do not pass go. Go straight to jail.
Yeah.
Go straight to spider jail.
Spider jail. Yeah. Shelob's lair.
Gareth Ungol. Man,
that's another one. Count me out.
Yeah, not for the people who are afraid of spiders for sure. Well, and I mean, props to Sam. This is why Sam is the best, because he single-handedly took on a spawn of Ungoliant.
I'm like, maybe if Sam could do it, maybe I could, but no, I don't think so.
No, but
it made me think maybe being small is better in this case because you can kind of crawl under her legs easier. That's how he did it. He stabbed her from below.
Yeah, we talked about Ungoliant in the very first episode, where she is one of the most terrifying things to ever exist in the entire universe.
Scary enough to make Morgoth scream in terror.
Scary enough to make Morgoth scream in terror, and in the mountains of Lamoth, his screams echo forevermore because of a giant spider.
Right.
And this is her daughter hanging out.
Just hanging out
in
the lair.
paths in the mountains on the edge of Mordor. And it's funny because in the book, Sauron's like, yeah, I know she's there. It's great to have her there. Basically, like, I don't have to worry about anything getting in that way.
Yeah. If I was the Dark Lord, I would not mind an evil spider hanging out on my borders. Yeah.
No.
You just have to feed her a couple orcs every now and then to keep her satiated.
Yeah. But kind of like the Paths of the Dead, this is one of those places that it just feels wrong. Like as soon as you step into the tunnel.
Well, it's another tunnel, which means there's no escape.
Yeah, you don't know if it's going to come out, right?
Well, yeah, you don't know if it's going to come out. I don't know her tunnels and where they go. And I can't escape anywhere. It's all rock. So it's like, you know.
You got to go back down the winding stairs. And
with all of her webs in there, you know, Frodo gets caught in them.
Yeah.
I would definitely get caught.
Yeah, Frodo and Sam. I remember that scene where they're trying. Well, in the movies, it's just Frodo. But in the books, like, they finally find a way out, but then they, like, blunk, like walk into a barrier that they can't realize, and then they realize it's a web there that they have to use Sting to cut through. I mean, we find out in the books later that there are orc tunnels that the patrols use that kind of skirt along the edge of the worst part of the tunnel, but like
maybe
you
get lucky to find your way into one of those.
Yeah. I think that's what Gollum uses. But like the sheer terror. Well, do you know the story behind the alleged story behind why Tolkien doesn't like spiders and made spiders a bad?
No, I don't. You should definitely tell me.
And this might be fan fiction. This may be true. There's probably a grain of truth in it somewhere. But the rumor goes that when he was a child, because he was born in South Africa.
Okay.
And then moved to England. So when he was very little in South Africa, he got this gnarly bite on his hand by a tarantula, a giant spider. Yeah. And like from that day forward, he was like, I don't like spiders. I don't like giant spiders. Fair. So there's
love that.
That's apparently the genesis of his creation of Shelob and all these spiders that are so terrifying because he had this traumatic experience as a child with a big spider. So
I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, even without that personal experience, spiders are just scary anyway. Like we're all scared. Most of us are scared of spiders. Yeah. But yeah, I love that.
I mean, I like my little practical house spiders.
Yeah.
You know, even here, I'll come down and see a wolf spider in the basement and I'm like, I'm good. So imagining something the size of Shelob, which is probably the size of this room. I mean, she's huge and she's also not, this is where it gets freaky, right? She's not straight spider.
Okay.
The way she's described in the book is basically spider-like is the closest thing to how you could describe her appearance. But there's this level of like unnatural, supernatural, whatever it is, she's not just a spider. There's almost like a haunted humanoid aspect to her. And she can converse because in the books you find out.
That's right. She does kind of talk.
You hear the orcs talking to each other, describing Gollum, because they know they're like, I always saw Slinker or whatever around. And they're like, he like makes pacts with her. So Gollum is able to converse and make deals with her, which is why he promised to bring back food for her in the form of Frodo and Sam. But like, it's freakier than just like a giant spider because it's sentient and it's got all this evil. She spreads dark magic, much like her mother and Ungoliant, right? Like she can send out darkness to cloak herself. And there's definitely some dark magic going on here.
Yeah. So probably doesn't have soul, but is still somewhat sentient, I guess.
Well, I don't want to debate the theological aspects of what creatures do and do not have souls in Middle Earth, but
yeah, but she's got some presence. And not just a beast.
It's not just a giant, mindless spider. It is something much more terrifying and darker and brooding. And it's a little flavor of, we'll get to it later in the podcast about where she comes from and Ungoliant's gift to the world of all the terrifying spiders and locations. But I think this one's like, I think a lot of people would list this in terms of scary haunted places. It is a known evil. Even Faramir in the books and in the movies, when he's like, Gollum, where are you taking them?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, Cirith Ungol, and Faramir's like, you're no.
Same with Gandalf, right?
Yeah.
And he's also like, oh, they're taking that path?
Yeah, he has a little panic attack in Gondor when Faramir comes back and reports it.
Yeah.
And he's like, which way were they going? And he was like, oh God. Oh no, like, not that way.
Yeah.
Why would they go that way? So
Gandalf doesn't react like that very much.
No. So it's a place that is known, is scary. Gandalf is unnerved by it. That's on the list of like top 10 places not to go in Middle Earth.
Well, it was probably a lot of luck, but also the vial of Gladriel.
Yeah, little bottled version of Elrond's dad in a. Sorry, I shouldn't.
Oh,
I mean, it's Elrond's dad with the Silmaril in the sky in bottled form. It's it's the portable version.
But yeah, essentially. But yeah, without that stuff, I mean, they probably wouldn't.
No, you needed some elven magic.
There was some luck
there.
Yeah.
And Sam single-handedly fighting off Shelob, like the true hero that he is. Yeah, it's brief, but it's spooky.
Well, my personal top, at least before I started researching some of the First Age stuff, would be the next one on my list, which is actually right next to Minas Morgul.
Yes, formerly known as Minas Ithil, the Tower of the Moon.
I know, it's sad to me because Minas Ithil, the Tower of the Moon, sounds like it would have been beautiful.
Just bad real estate. It's a little too close to
Mordor. And its pair was Minas Arnor, which is Minas Tirith.
Yes.
Which we all knew from the movies. But Minas Ithil, or Minas Morgul now, is much, much smaller. It's maybe more like an outpost.
Yeah, it was kind of like a watchtower to keep an eye on all the shenanigans in Mordor. And, well, it didn't work out, as we know, because the Nazgul took over.
Yeah, that Witch King of Agmar, pretty much took it over for his own little capital.
Yeah, it becomes his stronghold. The Nazgul take over it, and it begins to become just a place of pure evil that radiates out into the Morgul Vale, which is the cleft in the mountains there that leads to this valley, and it culminates in the tower guarding the pass. Yeah, it is not a place you ever want to find yourself at.
Yeah, I mean, some of the descriptions of this place, it's like it emits a corpse white light, described as a sickly light with green glowing rivers.
Oh, I love that. There's a bit in the book where it describes the light wavering and blowing almost like an exhalation of decay.
Ooh, yeah.
Like the light kind of comes and goes. And then, they say a corpse light, a light that illuminated nothing. It's just pure sorcery.
Evil coming out of there. Even the orcs were afraid of that place.
I think this is one of the things they got so right in the films.
Yes.
Where you see them approaching and it's got that sickly green light and just this ominous presence and the freaky watcher statues out front. Like it radiated haunted evilness. Like you walk up to this and you're like, oh, there's a bad guy that lives in there.
Yeah. Real quick, I gotta say 2 of my absolute favorite get chill scenes comes from Minas Morgul.
Yeah.
And it's when the Witch King is putting on his armor.
Oh, that slow scene where it's just
putting his gloves on.
Like rotates on. One of the greatest shots in the whole film. 100% agree, because you feel the evil on screen.
Oh, yeah. Combined with the music and the sound, just, that low, and then moving around him as he's just standing there with his, robe.
And Gandalf narrating, just saying, sorry, just not unleashed. No notes.
Yeah. And then also is when the
green light goes up.
Yes. So it's quiet for a second. All the power is building up and then it shoots this green sky.
Yeah. And that happens in the books. Like that beacon of light kind of signifying things are kicking off.
Right.
And all that corpse light just going up into the sky.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's aces. I love that shot in the movie. They did make it even better in the film, I think, because in the books, I believe the Witch King is just riding a horse at the head of the host, marching out of the fortress.
But in the movies, he's on the fell
beast, and I was like, yes, absolutely, yes. This is the better version.
Screaming as it's coming out of the valley,
and it sits on top of the fortress. Yeah, Minas Morgul, great job. No notes. We love them. Like this whole, I love just the evil vibes that seep out. Of this place, and it's not it never gets better.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is after the ring is destroyed and Mordor in general is getting washed clean of all of its evil and they're able to farm there again and resettle. Minas Morgul, they do not go near. It is still corrupted. There's so much evil concentrated in this place that it is not able to get better.
No.
I don't know if it was Aragorn or who said that it would take centuries to even be able to wash the evil out of this area.
Yeah. Well, they don't try to resettle. They're like, we're just going to tear it down and never go there again. Never speak of this evil.
Yeah, but I think it might have been around then that Aragorn said it's going to take centuries. Pretty much, we're not
going into the Morgul Vale.
He said centuries, but basically means
forever. It's haunted. Don't go there. You probably have dumb Gondorian teenagers that are like, we're going to sneak into the Morgul Vale and never seen again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't.
So evil.
It's so permanently touched by evil and sorcery and necromancy. And it breaks my heart because you get these little descriptions in the book of how beautiful the Tower of the Moon used to be, right?
No.
So you had Minas Tirith, and Osgiliath is the capital city, but Minas Tirith and Minas Ithil were the flanking fortresses. And it's just this corruption of what was once pure and beautiful into this fortress that is just, ugh.
I completely agree. I think maybe it's because of that juxtaposition of so beautiful and then now literally the worst thing.
Yeah.
And we don't see anybody go into Minas Morgul. It's scary enough just from the outside.
Yeah. And Tolkien doesn't need to describe the inside.
Yeah.
the way he talks about it, or even the orcs, because you do get the one scene at the top of the Tower of Cirith Ungol. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't remember if it's Sam listening in or the book describing it, but basically you hear the two factions of orcs talking, and there are the orcs from Mordor that like man the watchtower, and then there's a group of orcs from Minas Morgul, and they've got their own insignia. They have this creepy skull and moon logo.
Oh, dang.
And the orcs from Mordor are kind of like, I don't want to get in trouble with your bosses over at Minas Morgul. Like, they're even scared of the Nazgul and stuff. So there's definitely a reputation.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. It's interesting to me with the Witch King, even though he's an agent of Sauron, mm-hmm. he has so much of his own power, and
he's pretty powerful, which is a shame. He got himself corrupted, but maybe he could have been the new Dark Lord if he hadn't.
Yeah.
Because he's the major force. He really is until things kick off in Lord of the Rings. Sauron's presumed gone at that point, so the Witch King really is kind of having his moment at the beginning of the Third Age.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more about where he was and what he was doing.
Yeah, because they show this thing, I think it's in the Hobbit films, they show the graves of the Nazgul and somebody opens them back up. And I'm like, I don't think that happens, but
Yeah, maybe they're just, I don't know. We're going to have to look into that.
Yeah, I don't think they were ever defeated, right? Like,
not that I know of. Were they just hanging out in Minas Morgul, or?
That's what I wonder. I wonder if like it's so evil because while Sauron was like reconstituting himself and growing his power again, they have their stronghold at Minas Morgul, and it's like Nazgul
still that corrupted for
Party
that
Central.
Long. Yeah, because I guess Mordor was just a volcano.
Yeah,
and maybe an inhospitable place, but not so.
Definitely some bad vibes, but
but not the evil stronghold that it became when Sauron came.
Yeah, when he relocated back at the end of So yes, Angela. Apparently, there are so many terrifying places in Middle Earth that we have decided to split this across 2 whole episodes.
Yeah, there's just too many places to talk about, and this is going long enough already.
So join us next week for part 2 of the most haunted places in Middle Earth,
where we go even creepier and into some locations that even I didn't know about.
Yeah, you thought the Third Age was bad. Wait till you hear about the First Age.
Yeah, it's going to be good.